These are AIBE questions, that is All India Bar Examination questions. Which part of the Constitution of India deals with fundamental rights? Part 3 of the Constitution. Fundamental rights are guaranteed under Articles 12 to 32. Right to equality is guaranteed under which articles? 14 to 18. The concept of fundamental rights is borrowed from. So here you have to identify. Fundamental rights is borrowed from United States of America. Which article of the Constitution abolishes untouchability? Article 17. The right to constitutional remedies is mentioned in Article 32. Who called Article 32 the heart and soul of the Constitution? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Which fundamental right cannot be suspended during emergency? That is Article 21, right to life and personal liberty. Which article guarantees freedom of speech and expression? Article 19 1A. Article 21 ensures protection of life and personal liberty. Article 15 prohibits discrimination on grounds of religion, race, and sex. That is, answer is all of the above. Right to education is inserted under which article? Article 21A. Article 18 deals with abolition of titles. Protection against arrest and detention is under Article 22. Cultural and educational rights are given in Articles 29 to 30. Right against exploitation is provided under Articles 23 to 24. Which of the following is not a fundamental right? Right to property is not a fundamental right. Which article grants freedom of religion? Article 25. Directive principles of state policy are non-justiciable. Article 20 provides protection in respect of conviction for offences. That is Article 20. Conviction for offences. Article 16 provides for equality of opportunity in public employment. Right to information is fundamental right under Article 19(1)(a). The writ of habeas corpus is used to release from unlawful detention. How many types of writs are there? 5 types. Right to privacy is a fundamental right under Article 21. Which case declared the right to privacy as a fundamental right? Puttaswamy case. Fundamental rights can be amended by Parliament. Who can enforce fundamental rights? Supreme Court and High Courts. Which article allows President to suspend fundamental rights during emergency? Article 359. Fundamental rights are available to all persons. Some rights like Articles 14, 20, 21 are for all. Other articles such as 15, 16, 19 only for citizens. Which fundamental right is available only to citizens and not to foreigners? That is Article 19, freedom of speech. The Constitution provides remedies under Article 32. The right to freedom of religion is protected under Article 25 to 28. Writ of mandamus is issued to command a public authority to perform a duty. The writ of certiorari is issued by Supreme Court and High Court. Right to property is now a constitutional right under Article 300A. The landmark case which expanded the interpretation of Article 21 is Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India, which article ensures freedom of assembly. Article 19(1)(b). Article 30 provides rights to religious and linguistic minorities to establish educational institutions. Protection of interests of minorities is under Article 29. Which fundamental right is guaranteed to both citizens and non-citizens? Right to personal liberty, that is Article 21. Article 14 guarantees right to equality. Double jeopardy protection is given under Article 20 upon 2. It can be said to Article 20/2 also. Freedom to form associations is guaranteed under Article 19, that is Article 19/1/c. Rights under Article 19 can be restricted on reasonable grounds by law. Freedom of religion includes right to profess, right to practice, right to propagate, that is all of the above, under Article 25. Which of the following is not a writ? Injunction. So, quo warranto, prohibition, and habeas corpus, all these three are writs under Article 32 and Article 226. The enforcement of fundamental rights is primarily through Supreme Court and High Courts. Freedom of press is not mentioned in the Constitution but inferred from Article 19/1/a. The right to livelihood is part of Article 21 as interpreted by Supreme Court. So these questions are from the IPC. Which section of IPC defines offense? Section 40. You can see and from the bare acts and write these answers. Which section deals with punishment for murder? Section 302. Right of private defense is dealt under Section 96 to 106. Sections 96 to 106. The term cognizable offense is defined under, so it's not defined in under IPC, it's in CRPC. Rape is defined under Section 375. Which section of IPC deals with criminal conspiracy? Section 120A. Which section punishes attempt to commit suicide? Section 309. Sedition is defined under Section 124A. A person of unsound mind is exempted from criminal liability under Section 84. Dowry death is covered under Section 304B. Theft is defined in Section 378. Which section deals with grievous hurt? Section 320. Which section defines criminal breach of trust? Section 405. Section 34 IPC deals with joint liability. Kidnapping is dealt under Section 363. So these questions are from the CPC, that is Civil Procedure Code. Civil Procedure Code came into force in 1908. The object of CPC is to provide procedure for civil litigation. Which section of CPC defines decree? Section 2/2. Res judicata is dealt under Section 11. Interlocutory orders are orders passed during the pendency of suit. The first schedule of CPC contains rules. Restitution is covered under Section 144. Appeals from original decrees are under Section 96. Who can appoint a commissioner? A civil court under Section 75. Ex parte decree means decree passed in absence of one party. So these questions are from the Indian Evidence Act. The Indian Evidence Act came into force in 1872. Who had the burden of proof? Person who asserts a fact under Section 101. Dying declaration is admissible under Section 32/1. Conclusive proof is defined in Section 4. Admissions are not conclusive but may operate as estoppel. Confession made to police officer is not admissible under Section 25. Oral evidence must be direct under Section 60. Presumption as to documents is under Sections 90 to 90A. Which section deals with expert opinion? Section 45. Hearsay evidence is not admissible. So these are from the Hindu Marriage Act. The Hindu Marriage Act 1955 applies to Hindus, Buddhists, Jains and Sikhs. The minimum age of marriage for a Hindu male under the Hindu Marriage Act is 21 years. Under Muslim law, marriage is considered as a contract. Restitution of conjugal rights is provided under Section 9 of Hindu Marriage Act. Which section of the Hindu Marriage Act deals with divorce? Section 13. In Muslim law, meher refers to gift given to bride by husband. Under Hindu law, bigamy is prohibited and punishable under Section 494 IPC. A void marriage under Hindu Marriage Act is null from the beginning. Muslim divorce by mutual consent is called Mubarat. Maintenance to wife under section 125 CRPC is available irrespective of religion. The Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act was enacted in 1956. In Hindu law, who can adopt a child? Both and male and female subject to conditions. Under Muslim law, a child born within how many days of dissolution of marriage is considered legitimate? So here the answer is given 300 days, but actually I know it is 280 days. So it is important to verify this answer. Christian marriages in India are governed by special, Indian Christian Marriage Act 1872 and Indian Divorce Act 1869. That is Indian Christian Marriage Act 1872 and Indian Divorce Act 1869. The Special Marriage Act 1954 allows interfaith marriages. Iddat in Muslim law refers to waiting period after divorce or death of husband. Under Hindu law, a marriage is void if spouses are within prohibited degrees of relationship. Under section 24 of Hindu Marriage Act, the court may order maintenance, pendant light and expenses of proceedings. Dissolution of Muslim marriage by wife without husband's consent is called kola. Under Hindu law, guardianship of a minor boy below 5 years is usually given to mother. So these questions are from the family law. Under Hindu law, a voidable marriage remains valid until declared void by court. Under Muslim law, talaq-e-biddat is irrevocable triple talaq in one sitting. Which act governs Parsi marriages and divorces in India? Parsi Marriage and Divorce Act 1936. Under Hindu law, who is a sapinda? A relative. Answer is A. Relative within 3 generations on father's side and 5 generations on mother's side. Section 5 of Hindu Marriage Act laid down conditions for a valid Hindu marriage. In Hindu law, kola requires wife returning part or full meher. Kola here refers wife returning part or full meher. Christian divorce grounds are given under Indian Divorce Act 1869. Under the Special Marriage Act, a notice of intended marriage must be given at least 30 days before marriage. Under Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956, a male Hindu can adopt if his wife consents if alive. Under Muslim law, the father's obligation to maintain his daughter continues until her marriage. A decree of nullity under Section 12 HMA makes a marriage voidable from the date of decree. Muslim law recognizes the following forms of talaq: talaq ul sunnat, talaq ul biddat, kula, and mubarak. Section 25 of Hindu Marriage Act deals with permanent alimony and maintenance. Under Hindu law, adoption of a daughter was permitted after Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956. In Muslim law, fetch refers to divorce by wife through court intervention. The Guardians and Wards Act came into force in 1890. Under Hindu law, marriage between Sapindas is void unless permitted by custom. Under Special Marriage Act, marriage is solemnized before Registrar of Marriages. In Hindu law, grounds for divorce include conversion to another religion, cruelty, desertion for 2 years. That is all of the above. Under Muslim law, talaq ul sunnat is talaq in accordance with Prophet's traditions revocable. A Hindu widow can adopt a child without anyone's consent as per Hama 1956. Under Hindu law, a child born out of void marriage is legitimate for inheritance from parents. Under Muslim law, meher is mandatory. The Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act 1956 applies to Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, and Buddhists. Under Special Marriage Act, objection to marriage notice can be raised within 30 days. In Hindu law, marriage between parties with a living spouse is void. In Muslim law, maintenance after divorce is governed by Muslim Personal Law, Section 125 CRPC, Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Divorce Act 1986. That is all of the above. In Christian law, judicial separation is temporary suspension of marital rights. Under Hindu law, Sridhan refers to women's absolute property. Under Muslim law, a child's legitimacy is determined by birth during valid marriage, birth within 280 days of dissolution. Under the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, the minimum age for marriage for a woman is 18 years. Which of the following is not a ground for divorce under Section 13 of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955? Poverty. So, cruelty, adultery, mutual consent. These are the ground for the divorce. Poverty is not a ground for divorce. Muslim marriage is regarded as civil contract. Under the Hindu Succession Act 1956, a class 1 heir includes daughter. The Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956 allows adoption of a child only if child is below 21 years, child is unmarried, child is Hindu. All of the above. In Muslim law, the waiting period after divorce before a woman can remarry is called iddat. Under the Special Marriage Act 1954, the notice of intended marriage must be given at least 30 days before. Talaki biddat, that is instant triple talak, was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 2017. Which section of the Hindu Marriage Act deals with the restitution of conjugal rights? Section 9. The Christian Marriage Act 1872 applies to marriages where at least one is Christian. In Hindu law, who can be a natural guardian of a minor girl? Father, and after him, mother. The Dissolution of Muslim Marriage Act 1939 applies to Muslim women only, not applies to non-Muslims. Section 125 CRPC provides maintenance for wife, children, and parents. Hindu marriage can be solemnized under which section of the Hindu Marriage Act? Section 7 through Saptapadi. The concept of co-partnership property is found in Hindu law. Under Hindu law, a widow can remarry under Hindu Widows Remarriage Act 1856, Hindu Marriage Act 1955. That is A and B. Who can perform adoption under Hindu law? Both male and female. The Parsi Marriage and Divorce Act was enacted in 1936. Under Muslim law, meher is dower given to wife. Which act governs interreligious marriages in India? Special Marriage Act 1954. The Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act was enacted in 1956. Under Hindu law, the maximum number of wives a man can have at a time is 1. Which of the following is not a ground for divorce for a Hindu wife under Section 13 over 2 of Hindu Marriage Act? If the husband is poor, so that is not a ground for divorce. Husband, if marries again, it's a that is reason for divorce. Husband guilty of rape, it's a reason. Husband becomes important, it is also a reason. If the husband becomes poor, that is not a reason. Under Muslim law, marriage without a meher is valid, but meher is payable later. The Hindu Succession Act 2005 gave daughters equal rights in co-partnership property. Which act governs divorce among Christians in India? Here again the same question repeated. Indian Divorce Act 1869. In Muslim law, divorce initiated by the wife is called khula. The Hindu Marriage Act doesn't apply to Muslims. Guardianship by the court is called guardianship by appointment. Which act deals with maintenance of parents and senior citizens? Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007. Under the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, the minimum age for marriage of a bride is 18 years. A Hindu marriage is considered a sacrament. Restitution of conjugal rights under Section 9 of the Hindu Marriage Act is granted when one spouse deserts the other without reasonable cause. The concept of Sapinda relationship is defined under Section 3 over F of Hindu Marriage Act. Under Hindu law, adoption is governed by Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956. A Hindu widow can adopt a child without consent of her late husband's relatives. Which section of the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act defines maintenance? Section 3 over B. Under Hindu law, a valid marriage requires performance of essential ceremonies. A marriage between persons within prohibited degrees of relationship is void. Which of the following is a ground for divorce under Section 13 of the Hindu Marriage Act? Cruelty. A Muslim marriage is considered a civil contract. Under Muslim law, meher is a gift from husband to wife. Talaq-e biddat refers to triple talaq pronounced in one sitting. Under Muslim law, iddat refers to waiting period after divorce or death of husband. Which act declared triple talaq unconstitutional in India? Which act declared triple talaq unconstitutional in India? Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriage Act 2019. Dissolution of Muslim Marriages Act 1939 provides grounds for divorce to Muslim wife. In Muslim law, the marriage of a minor can be repudiated after attaining majority under the right of option of puberty. Under Muslim law, Kola means divorce initiated by wife with husband's consent. A child in Muslim law is legitimate if born after 6 months of marriage. The guardian in marriage under Muslim law is called wali. The Special Marriage Act 1954 applies to all citizens irrespective of religion. Under Special Marriage Act, minimum marriage age for men is 21 years. Notice of intended marriage under the Special Marriage Act must be given 30 days before marriage. Under Special Marriage Act, a marriage can be solemnized before marriage officer. Which of the following is a ground for divorce under Special Marriage Act? Adultery. Guardians and Wards Act 1890 applies to all citizens irrespective of religion. A natural guardian for a Hindu minor boy is father. Under Section 125 CRPC, maintenance can be claimed by wife, children, and parents. The term illegitimate child under maintenance law can claim maintenance from mother and father. Under Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, the adoptive father must be of sound mind. So these are questions from the IPC. Under Section 299 IPC, culpable homicide means causing death with intention or knowledge. Which section of IPC deals with murder? Section 300. Section 375 IPC defines rape. Punishment for murder is given under Section 302. The term wrongful restraint is defined in Section 339 IPC, that is 339 IPC. Section 124A IPC deals with sedition. Section 490A IPC is related to cruelty by husband or relatives. Defamation is dealt with under Section 499 IPC. The right of private defense is dealt in IPC under Section 96 to 106. Grievous hurt is defined in Section 320 IPC. These questions are from the CPC. The CPC came into force in 1908. Which section of CPC deals with inherent powers of the court? Section 151. Under 39 CPC deals with temporary injunctions and interlocutory orders. That is, Order 39 CPC deals with temporary injunctions and interlocutory orders. A suit is instituted by filing a plaint. The limitation period for filing a review under CPC is 30 days. Res judicata is dealt with in Section 11 CPC. A foreign judgment is conclusive under CPC except in cases mentioned in Section 13 CPC. The doctrine of res sub judice is in Section 10 CPC. Which order of CPC deals with the procedure of recording evidence? Order 18. Decree is defined under Section 2/2 CPC. Indian Evidence Act. Here these questions are from the Indian Evidence Act. Okay. Indian Evidence Act came into force in 1872. Section 3 of Indian Evidence Act defines court, evidence and facts. Burden of proof is dealt within Section 101 to 114A. Dying declaration is admissible under Section 32/1. Confession caused by inducement, threat, or promise is irrelevant under Section 24. Evidence of an accomplice is admissible but unsafe without corroboration. Primary evidence is defined in Section 62 Indian Evidence Act. Admissions are defined in Section 17. Which section deals with the presumption as to documents 30 years old? Section 90. Judicial notice is dealt with under Section 56 to 57. These questions from the IPC. What is the punishment for dowry death under IPC? Section 304B imposes enhanced punishment in cases of dowry death. Which section of IPC includes the right of private defense? Section 96 to 106. Private defense is covered in these sections. This question is from the civil law and CPC. Res judicata is addressed under which section of CPC? Section 11 deals with the doctrine of res judicata. Which order of CPC pertains to temporary injunctions? Order 39 addresses temporary injunctions and interlocutory orders. This question is from the Evidence Act. Under which section is dying declaration admissible? Section 32/1 allows for dying declaration to be admissible in evidence. Confession made under inducement or threat is irrelevant under which section? Section 24 excludes confessions made under inducement, threat, or promise. This is from the family law. Which act governs interfaith and civil marriages in India? Special Marriage Act. 1954 governs secular and interfaith marriages. Under which section of the Hindu Marriage Act is restitution of conjugal rights provided? Section 9 deals with restitution of conjugal rights. This question is from the IPC and criminal law. But here the question is from the Evidence Act. Under Section 25 of the Evidence Act, a confession made under inducement, threat, or promise is irrelevant and inadmissible. For private defense of the body causing death, the apprehended offense must evoke fear of serious harm or death. Substituted service of summons on a defendant is provided under Order 5, Rule 20. Imposition of compensatory costs for false or vexatious claims or defenses is dealt with under Section 35A CPC. Under Section 25 of the Hindu Marriage Act, the court can order permanent alimony and maintenance. A Hindu wife who has supported her children without the husband's assistance is entitled to separate residence and maintenance under section 18 over 2 over F. A wife is not entitled to maintenance under section 125 CRPC if she voluntarily refuses to live with the husband without sufficient reason. Section 164A of the CRPC pertains to the medical examination of rape victims. These questions are from the Indian Contract Act. A contract entered into under undue influence is voidable. A contract formed without mutual consent is void. The essential element of an agreement is free consent, which is not a type of contract under the Act. No contract is not a contract. If one party has performed and the other party has not, it is called partially executed. So, here in this question, which is not a type of contract, here they have asked. So, executory, executed, quasi contract. These are all contracts. If there is no contract, means it's not a contract. If one party has performed and the other has not, it's called partially executed. A contract may terminate through lapse of time, death of a party, mutual agreement. A contract requires agreement plus consideration. On breach, the injured party is entitled to actual damages. A contract made by a legally incapable person is void. Mohari Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh decided void ab initio, that is minors agreement void ab initio. What is a void agreement under section 2G? Which is not enforceable is a void agreement. So enforceable means it is a valid agreement. Lawful agreement is valid. Agreement with promises is valid. Not enforceable is void agreement. Agreement in restraint of marriage is governed by section 26. Agreement to do an impossible act is governed by section 56. An agreement void where both parties are mistaken is under section 20. Wager agreements are void under section 30. Communication, acceptance and revocation of proposals falls under section 3. Undue influence is defined in section 16. Mistake of law is addressed under section 21. Enforcement of contingent contracts is under answer implied as being covered in special contract discussions, not specific. Affirmation of contract means confirming by behavior, declaration of intention. These two together forms the affirmation of contract. What regulates indemnity for agents' lawful acts? Section 222. Authority in a contract can be so here express, implied, both, none have given actions. Options are express, implied, both, and none. So here the answer is not right. So standard principle is applied. Implied from general structure. So answer is implied from general structure. If acceptance is communicated by telephone, contract is made where? Heard and received. Acceptance complete as against proposal when put in course of transmission. An offer accepted with conditions is counter offer. An offer must be specific. Unspecified performance time contract performed within reasonable time. Counter offer constitutes rejection. Competency to contract implies both age and soundness of mind. So answer is both. A contract with a minor is void. Consensus ad idem means meeting of minds. For a binding contract, parties must agree on same thing in same sense. So example scenario, copy invitation not legally binding because there is no legal intent. Yes or no? No. There is no legal intention. Best statement. Indian Contract Act defines general principles, not executive code. Yes. What constitutes a valid contract? A hides B and pays later. This is a valid contract. Yes. Sequence of formation. Offer leads to acceptance, which leads to consideration and then to contract. That is correct order. Contingent contract is defined in section 31, depends on future of uncertain event. True. A contract may be discharged by agreement, performance, impassibility. Quasi contract under section 70, obligation imposed without contract. True. A bare agreement not enforceable, only enforceable with consideration. True. Example not bailment. Obligation by shareholder to compensate company. Answer is not bailment. Offer must intend to create legal relations. True. Silence generally does not amount to acceptance. True. Past consideration is valid under Indian law. True. Consideration may move from promisee to that is sorry. Consideration may move from promisee or stranger. True. Consideration must be lawful and not legal, not illegal. Consideration must be lawful and not illegal. True. Consent must be free. No coercion, fraud, mistake. True. Coercion defined under section 15. Threat, unlawful restraint. True. Fraud involves deceit or concealment of material facts. True. Misrepresentation causes voidable contract. True. PIL stands for Public Interest Litigation. Who is regarded as the father of PIL in India? Justice P.N. Bhagavati. The concept of PIL was truly institutionalized by Kapila Hingorani. In S.P. Gupta versus Union of India, PIL was defined by the court. PIL originated in which country? USA. PIL can be filed under Article 32 and 226. Which article allows PIL in High Court? 226. Can PIL be filed in district courts? No. Relaxation of locus standi in PIL means anyone, even if not directly affected, can file. What must a PIL petitioner demonstrate to be entertained? Public spirited intent and good faith. Which of the following is not a feature of PIL? Personal injury claims. PIL promotes public accountability. Justifi- Justiciability in PIL implies subject matter may be heard by the court. PIL emerged from judicial activism. Which principle is commonly invoked in environmental PILs? Public trust doctrine. Bandhuha Mukti Morcha versus Union of India addressed child labor. MC Mehta versus Union of India with regard to Taj trapezium case instituted environmental protection measures. In MC Mehta versus Kamalnath, the court applied public trust doctrine. What was India's first environmental PIL? Rural litigation and entitlement Kendra case. Indra Sahni versus Union of India, that is Mandal case, was a PIL on reservation policy. PIL ensures accountability and transparency in governance. Which of the following is not typically entertained as PIL? Contractual disputes. Vishaka guidelines PIL addressed workplace sexual harassment. Volga Tellis PIL centered on right to livelihood and pavement dwellers. PIL's role in environmental law includes directing implementation of pollution control. PIL procedure is characterized by relaxed procedural norms. The amicus curiae in PIL serves to assist the court with independent expertise. Courts in PIL often issue guidelines or directives. Judicial activism in PIL applies active intervention for social change. PIL encourages judicial legislative collaboration. PIL has helped in enhancing public oversight over governance. What is a frequent drawback of PIL? Misuse for personal or political gains. A correct description: PIL petitions may be encouraged if bona fide public interest. PIL is a tool for collective social reform. Which modern day figure filed a PIL regarding NEET related allegations? Alak Pandey of Physics Wala. People filing bill for personal gain may face rejection by courts. Courts accept bill directly under Article 32 due to public interest and fundamental rights. Bill must highlight broader public interest. Grounds to appraise Supreme Court under bill include grounds to approach Supreme Court under bill include public interests affecting fundamental rights. Bill represents access to justice for disadvantaged. Access to justice for disadvantaged. Public interest litigation is rooted in conscience of the court. Which of the following does not qualify for bill? Election dispute. Bill examples include bonded labor, environmental pollution, minor girl protection. All of the above. Relaxation of locus standi applies to relevant public spirited individual. Relaxation of local stand applies to relevant public spirited individuals. Bill is defined as enforcement of broad public interest via judiciary. Justiciability ensures bill is within judicial competence. Is within judicial competence. Justiciability ensures bill is within judicial competence. Which grant judicial directives to correct public wrongs. Bill. Bill fosters enhanced democratic participation. Primary advantage of bill safeguarding marginalized interests. Coming to constitutional remedies. Which article of the Constitution provides the right to constitutional remedies? Article 32. The right to constitutional remedies is called the fundamental right. Who is called the protector and guarantor of fundamental rights? Supreme Court. Which writ is issued to release a person unlawfully detained? Habeas corpus. Which writ commands a public authority to perform its duty? Mandamus. Which writ is issued to stop a court from proceeding with a case without jurisdiction? Prohibition. Which writ is issued to quash an order of a lower court? Certiorari. Certiorari. Which writ checks the legality of a person holding a public office? Quo warranto. Which article gives high courts power to issue writs? Article 226. The Supreme Court can issue writs under only for fundamental rights. The High Court can issue writs for fundamental rights and other legal rights. Which case declared that judicial review is a basic structure of the Constitution? Kesavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala. Public interest litigation is linked to which article? Article 32. Who can file a writ petition under Article 32? Any person in public interest. Habeas corpus literally means you may have the body. Mandamus cannot be issued against private individuals. The writ of prohibition is issued by High Court or Supreme Court. Certiorari is issued after the order is passed. Quo warranto prevents usurpation of public office. Article 32 can be suspended during national emergency under Article 352. Right to constitutional remedies is inspired from American Constitution. Bill was introduced in India by Justice P.N. Bhagavati. Article 226 is wider than Article 32 because it covers legal rights too, which is not a writ injection. Article 32 is called the heart and soul of the Constitution. Who called Article 32 the heart and soul of the Constitution? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Which writ is preventive in nature? Prohibition. Which writ is both preventive and curative? Certiorari. Pill cases can be filed for public wrongs and injury to society. Habeas corpus can be filed by relatives or friends of detained person. Mandamus cannot be issued when duty is discretionary. Which court has wider writ jurisdiction? High Court. Which writ is Latin for we command? Mandamus. The Supreme Court's power to issue writs is under which part of the Constitution? Part 3. Which article empowers Parliament to confer writ powers to other courts? Article 32 over 3. In case of preventive detention, habeas corpus will not be allowed if detention is legal. Writ jurisdiction is a part of original jurisdiction. Which court cannot issue writs? Subordinate court. Bill originated in India in 1980. Which case expanded the scope of Article 32 for Bill? Husseinra cartoon case. Article 226 gives power to high courts to issue writs within its territorial jurisdiction. Article 32 is enforceable against state only. Which writ is issued to ensure that a public office is not wrongfully occupied? Quo warranto. Which writ ensures speedy trial? Habeas corpus. Which writ is issued when a decision is taken without jurisdiction? Certiorari. Bill petitions can be filed both in Supreme Court as well as in High Courts. Which writ prevents subordinate courts from exceeding jurisdiction? Prohibition. Which writ is considered the most effective safeguard of personal liberty? Habeas corpus. Can Article 32 be amended? No. It's part of basic structure. The jurisdiction of the Supreme Court under Article 32 is mandatory. So these are from the environmental law. Which article of the Indian Constitution deals with protection and improvement of the environment? Article 48A. Which fundamental duty under Article 51A relates to environmental protection? 51A G. 51A over G. The Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act was enacted in 1974. The Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act came into force in 1981. The Environment Protection Act was enacted in during Bhopal gas tragedy. Environment Protection Act was passed in the year 1986. Which body monitors the implementation of the Water Act? Central Pollution Control Board. Which case is known as the water pollution case? MC Mehta versus Union of India. Ganga pollution case. The Public Liability Insurance Act was enacted in 1991. Polluter pays principle was recognized in which case? Vellore Citizens Welfare Forum versus Union of India. Which principle means that lack of full scientific certainty shall not be used as a reason to postpone measures? Precautionary principle. Which court case recognized the precautionary principle in India? Which court case? Vellore Citizens Welfare Forum case. Which international conference led to the Stockholm Declaration? 1972 United Nations Conference. The Rio Declaration was adopted in 1992. National Green Tribunal was established in 2010. These are from the BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita replaced IPC effective from 1st July 2024. BNS introduces a separate offense for murder based on caste, community, or race. Under BNS, crimes involving sexual deception may attract penalties up to 10 years. BNS continues to define the right of private defense with expanded context. True. In BNS, the private defense of the body that risks harming innocent persons is governed under Section 44. Under BNS, actions against which there is no right of private defense fall under Section 37. BNS abolished which CRPC concept relating to urban jurisdiction, that is metropolitan area and magistrate. Words not defined in BNSS or BNS are interpreted according to BNS. The principle of reasonable time for investigation is strengthened under BNSS. Online FIR registration is now permitted under BNSS. BNSS replaced CRPC from 1st July 2024. BNSS comprises how many chapters and sections? 39 chapters and 531 sections. BNSS safeguards accused rights by arrest details and medical examination. That is requiring immediate arrest, detail, and medical examination. BNSS expands arrest powers and includes time frame based investigations. True. BNSS still authorizes use of armed forces for dispersal of unlawful assemblies. True. Punjab and Haryana High Court endorsed use of abbreviations BNS, BNSS, BSA. True. Using abbreviations like BNSS is not illegal and improves inclusivity. Singh suggesting abbreviation usage believed it helps in enhancing judicial accessibility. BNSS represents India's new procedures for criminal law. BNSS, BS together replace IPC, CRPC, and Indian Evidence Act. Under Section 34 of BNS, when is something not considered an offence? When done in the exercise of private defense. Section 35 of BNS relates to the right of private defense of own and another's body or property subject to restrictions. Section 36 of BNS includes private defense against a person of unsound mind, yes, with same rights as if the person were sane. There is no right of private defense under BNS against acts done under direction of public servant unless authority is shown. Section 38 of BNS allows causing death during private defense if there is reasonable apprehension of death. Reasonable apprehension of death. Section 39 allows harming but not killing the attacker if the offense is not under Section 38. True. According to Section 40, when does the private defense of the body start? Upon reasonable apprehension of danger. Section 44 extends the right of private defense even if there is a risk of harming innocent persons. True. The explanation under Section 44 includes harmless scenarios where defenses causes collateral injuries. If a defender cannot act without accidental harm to innocent persons, his private defense is lawful. BNSS, which replaces CRPC, came into effect on 1st July 2024. BNSS aims include simplifying criminal procedure and enhancing safeguards. Under BNSS, upon arrest, the arrested person must be informed of grounds, right to bail, and medically examined, which practice is now standardized under Rule 6 of BNSS. Arrest and personal search memos detailing rights, items, and notification. Section 35 over 3 of BNSS allows notice instead of arrest if offense carries less than 7 years punishment. True. Section 107 of BNSS relates to property seizure of crime acquired assets. Bihar police intensified seizures under which section of BNSS? Section 107. BNSS requires preliminary inquiry before FIR for offences carrying 3 to 7 years punishment. True. In the BNSS is often referred to as the Indian Justice Security Code. E-summons issuance directly from courts was advocated by Home Minister Amit Shah. BNS replaces the IPC 1860 and came into force on 1st July 2024. The BNS was passed by Parliament in December 2023. Total chapters in BNS includes 20. BNS introduced a mandatory minimum punishment for how many offences? 23 offences. Now, offences added in BNS include organized crime, cybercrime, human trafficking, environmental pollution, etc. These are new offences. Sedition under BNS is omitted. That is IPC section 124A. Which new punishment for minor offences was introduced in BNS? That is community service. Mob linking is specifically criminalized under section of BNS section 304. Sexual intercourse obtained by false promise of marriage is an offense under section 69. The penalty for grievous hurt causing permanent disability includes minimum 10 years or life imprisonment. BNSS replaces which criminal law code? CRPC. CRPC 1973. Total chapter in BNSS are 39. Section 175 of BNSS corresponds to procedure for investigation. Investigator recording statements of rape victims must ensure statements are recorded by a woman officer, preferably at place of victim's choice. Power to recall persons acquainted with facts of the case to attend appears in section 179. Zero FIR under BNSS allows filing at any police station to be transferred later. Time limit for investigating crimes against women is 60 days. Arrested individuals must be presented before a magistrate within 24 hours. Forensic investigation under BNSS is mandatory for offences punishable by at least 7 years. BNSS enables legal proceedings to be conducted electronically. Victims under BNSS have enhanced rights to participate and be informed about proceedings. BNSS mandates a witness protection scheme to witness safety through protection scheme. That is, it includes anonymity and safety for all witnesses. Personnel responsible for maintaining records of arrested persons must be assistant sub-inspectors or higher. For tribal areas in BNSS, which state is specifically excluded initially? Nagaland. Tribal areas under BNSS refer to those included in Assam's tribal areas before 21st January 1972. Section 148 of BNSS empowers magistrates and police to order dispersal of unlawful assemblies. Order dispersable, sorry, order dispersal of unlawful assemblies. Section 149 BNSS allows use of armed forces for dispersing assemblies with magistrate oversight. Section 150 grants which authority to armed forces without magistrate order. Disperse dangerous assembly but must contact executive magistrate immediately after. Home Minister advocated e-summons issued directly by court as per BNSS e-summons from courts. In Hyderabad, assets worth over rupees 4 crore were attached under BNSS for corporate cheating case. Which part of the Indian Constitution is borrowed from the US Constitution? Fundamental rights. The concept of judicial review in the Indian Constitution is borrowed from USA. So here you have to observe from USA we have borrowed fundamental rights and the judicial review. The parliamentary system of government in India is borrowed from Britain. Directive principles of state policy, that is DPSP, are borrowed from Ireland. The concept of the president as the nominal head is borrowed from Britain. So, from the Britain, we have borrowed the parliamentary system of government. We borrowed the president as the nominal head is borrowed from Britain. Fundamental duties are borrowed from USSR. The idea of a concurrent list is borrowed from Australia. The procedure for amendment of the constitution is borrowed from USA. So here from the USA we have borrowed judicial review, we have borrowed fundamental rights, and procedure for the amendment of the constitution is also borrowed from the USA. The concept of a strong center is borrowed from Canada. Bicameralism in the Indian constitution is borrowed from Britain. Suspension of fundamental rights during emergency is borrowed from Germany. The concept of a written constitution is borrowed from USA. The concept of cabinet responsibility is borrowed from UK. The concept of single citizenship is borrowed from UK. The federal system with a strong center is borrowed from Canada. The concept of judicial independence is borrowed from USA. The system of proportional representation is borrowed from Ireland. The concept of writ jurisdiction is borrowed from UK. The concept of republic is borrowed from France. The concept of preamble in the constitution is borrowed from USA. The concept of independent judiciary is borrowed from USA. The idea of the nominal head of state is borrowed from UK. Impeachment procedure of the president is borrowed from USA. The concept of a state list and union list is borrowed from Australia. The concept of union territories is borrowed from South Africa. The concept of a vice president is borrowed from USA. The concept of center state relationships is borrowed from Canada. The concept of removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges is borrowed from UK. The concept of bills in state legislature is borrowed from UK. The idea of concurrent powers is borrowed from Australia. Audi, so here some of the Latin phrases I am giving. Audi alterum partem means here the other side. Cavit emptor means buyer beware. Res ipsa Loquitur means the thing speaks for itself. Bona fide means in good faith. Ignorantia juris non execute means ignorance of law is no excuse. Actus reus refers to guilty act. Mens rea refers to guilty mind. Locus standi means right to bring action in court. Habeas corpus means you may have the body. Obiter dicta means statement made in passing. Ratio decidendi means reason for decision. Injuria sine damno means legal injury without damage. Damnum sine injuria means damage without legal injury. Nemo debet bis vexari means no one should be punished twice for the same offense. Res judicata means thing already judged. Sub judice means under judicial consideration. Ex parte means on one side only. Prima facie means at first sight. Ultra wides means beyond powers. In camera means in private. Amicus curiae means friend of the court. Mutatis mutandis means with necessary changes. Status quo means existing state of affairs. De facto means in fact. De jure means by law. Pro bono means for the good. Lex loci means law of the place. Lex fori means law of the court where case is tried. Lis pendens means pending litigation. Nemo judex in causa sua means no one should be a judge in his own cause. These questions are from the company law. A company incorporated under the Companies Act 2013 is a legal entity. Minimum number of members required for a public company 7. Maximum number of members for a private company 200. Which document defines the scope of a company's activities? Memorandum of Association. Articles of Association contain rules for internal management. Minimum paid up share capital for a private company is no minimum requirement. Preference shareholders have preference in dividend and repayment of capital. A share warrant is not recognized in India now. Which section deals with issue of sweet equity shares? Section 54. Bonus shares can be issued from share premium account, capital redemption reserve, profit and loss account. All of the above. Minimum number of directors in a public company 3. Director identification number is allotted under Section 153. Maximum tenure of independent directors 10 years, 2 terms of 5 years each. Managing director means a director with significant powers of management. Board meetings must be held at least once every quarter with a gap of 120 days. Annual general meeting is not required for private companies. Special resolution requires at least 75 majority. Quorum for public company meetings 2, 5, 15 based on number of members. Ordinary resolution requires simple majority. E-voting in general meetings is mandatory for listed and certain public companies. Financial year for companies in India April to March. Statutory auditor is appointed at first AGM. Dividend can be declared both out of profits only, out of reserves in some cases. Unpaid dividend must be transferred to unpaid dividend account within 37 days. CSR spending is applicable if net worth is more than 500 crore, turnover more than 1000 crore, net profit more than 5 crore. That is all of the above. Voluntary winding up is initiated by members or creditors. Tribunal ordered winding up is under section 271. Liquidator is appointed by tribunal. In case of winding up, secured creditors get preference over unsecured creditors. Dissolution means winding up completed and company ceases to exist. Which company is formed for charitable purposes? Section 8. OPC means one person company. Prospectus is issued by public company inviting public for subscription. Minimum subscription must be received within 60 days of issue. Which section deals with fraudulent activities by company officers? Section 447. Related party transactions are under section 188. Maximum number of companies in which a person can be director 20 companies, including 10 public companies. Registrar of companies function under Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Strike of a company is covered under section 248. National Company Law Tribunal replaced Company Law Board, SEBI, High Court jurisdiction in company law matters. So here the answer is Company Law Board and SEBI. Filing of annual return is under section 92. Charge registration with ROC is section 77. Minimum number of members in an OPC is section that is one, only one member. SEBI regulates primary and secondary markets. So questions here, they moved off. I'm checking which one is. I have to continue, so I am checking.